So thank you everybody for coming. And are there any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, on effort. I used to think of effort as if if I have a meter, you know, and the dial showing, zero effort to maximum effort, and that, if I'm distracted, then that's a closer to the zero, and then if I'm really focused, that's the 100, maximum effort. But then lately, since the class really and everything, on what really is effort, you know, because I think of times in my life like the week after my sister died and I had to go back to work. I used to think, well, I didn't have that much effort because I was very distracted. It was very difficult. And I would go in, as an itinerant, you go in, you do your time, and then I'd go back to the car and cry and get to my next place and go in, work, come back to the car and cry, because it was just really, really hard. And so my effort to, of practice, because your whole life is practice. So the effort during that time was a low effort is how I kind of used to think of it. But then I think, well, maybe not. Maybe that's not really effort. Maybe it isn't. Maybe that was a maximum effort on my part. Maybe it wasn't low effort. So my question is, I guess, what is effort really? Is it really like the meter? Like I'm not putting in that much effort sometimes, and sometimes I am, or is it maybe I am distracted, but I could be putting all my effort into just crying, you know, because that was what I needed to do. I I don't know. So my question is, it was that extreme effort? No, I don't know. Now I'm just rambling. So any
Don't
thoughts you
check.
have on it, I would appreciate.
So don't check. So don't check. Oh, I shouldn't be crying. Oh, I should be crying. Oh, I shouldn't do this. Oh, I should do that. So a better word than effort is persistence. So you went to work. That's persistence. And your sister died and so you cried. That's another kind of persistence. So my teacher had this wonderful phrase, by natural process. I mean, it wasn't original with him, but he used it all the time, by natural process. So yeah, when we're hit by grief, by natural process, we need to go through it. Not a problem. So we're always checking ourselves, is this good enough? Is this not good enough? Should I do more? Should I do less? We're always checking ourselves. There's no need to do that. Just whatever it is. Right now I'm in the car crying for my sister. Right now I'm in the classroom working with kids. Just whatever it is, moment by moment by moment by moment. Right now I'm in the classroom working with kids, but I can't help thinking about my sister. That's okay. All right? Yeah. So, thank you for your question.
Raise the volume on that a little.
This is it. Oh. Are there any other questions in the room, on the screen?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so is it okay, I guess, when going back to Liz's question, is it okay to go down the dark road when you're feeling it? Or is it when do we know when to stop?
Yeah, so there's no dark road. And there's no checklist. Oh, okay, I checked 3 things off the list, time to stop. Just moment by moment by moment by moment. Yeah, so sometimes we get pulled into a storyline. And you can recognize when that happens. You kind of get, for me, it's like I feel like somebody's pressing on my head, like I'm kind of trapped inside my skull. And you can see, oh, I'm in this storyline. I'm stuck in this storyline. And then when it happens, just recognize, oh, that storyline, I just made that up. I don't have to live there. But the road is only dark if you make it dark. You can shine your light in the darkest of places. So I got a very interesting letter. The Zen Center, Stan and I got an interesting letter the other day from somebody who he was asking about the funeral ceremony because he has a congenital disease that sometime in your middle age it starts destroying a major body function, and that's what's happening to him. And it was remarkable. There was no self-pity whatsoever. It's just like, this is happening. And, what's the funeral ceremony like? And, we wrote back to him and said, well, we're sorry this is happening to you, and this is what the funeral ceremony is like. And, but it was, I don't know, reading his letter, I don't know if Stan felt the same way. I mean, it's an email, right? Who writes letters? Reading his email, it was like this light was shining through. Because we all have a congenital disease. It's called life. We all have this congenital disease, and one day we're all going to die. Hopefully not all at the same time, but anyway, yeah. So this is absolutely a human situation, and to be able to look at it really clearly. Oh, this is the situation. This is what my life is. And then hopefully, we recognize this is everyone else's situation. And then this light can shine from everybody to everybody else. So yeah, you don't have to have a dark place. I mean, yeah, sometimes I understand, sometimes like depression is really difficult when depression hits and you can't see any way out of it. And you don't make up depression. I mean, it's a real thing. But to somehow like Charlie talked about the strong center, to really have connected with this true self that isn't happy and it isn't sad. It isn't tall, it isn't short. Whatever adjectives you want, it isn't any of those things. So this true self, to really connect with this true self, and then, oh yeah, like remind yourself, oh yeah, that's who I am. Then no place is dark. Okay? So thank you for your question. These guys have you guys all beat. Anybody here have a question in the room?
Marielle, do you have a question?
I'm taking it in. Could you say more about check?
Pick that up. Microphone.
Sorry, I'm sitting on my sleeve.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, move. Could you say more about checking? I don't know, maybe examples of, because we use that a lot. Don't be checking. But I know when I first started,
what does
didn't
that
understand. Like, can you give examples of what's checking?
Yeah, checking is judging. It's judging yourself. It's judging yourself, judging your situation, judging everything. So it's like you have a little list and you check things off. This is good, this is bad. I like this, I don't like this. So that's I think why he calls it checking. So it's like, he meaning Zen Master Sung San, his English was terrible. And so he had to use this really stripped down language. And it turned out to be wonderful because his teaching in English is much more clear than his teaching in Korean. Someone actually, got a bunch of his talks in Korean and translated them to English, and they're not nearly as good. Because the language came too easily. You all know when you're talking and all of a sudden you start rambling like I'm doing now, because the language comes so easily. But the English was hard for him. And so he had to work hard. And so checking was one of these things. Don't know was another one, which is an absolutely brilliant condensation of this very complex notion in Buddhism. And so he would, really distill things. I mean, he was saying, only go straight, right? And he was really great. And just do it long before Nike. We would joke in the school that we should collect money from Nike because we said just do it before they did. So checking was his shorthand. And it was this shorthand for this mind that's always watching yourself and watching the world around you. Her shirt's too green. I don't like that shirt. It's too green. That kind of that kind of mind. Yes.
Can you put that in relationship to, say, for example, can you put that in relationship to an example of, like, for example, I'm looking at myself saying, I can do better at that.
Well, didn't you just do that right now?
But is that checking mind?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an appropriate thing to do then in that situation.
It's a not appropriate. I mean, to say I can do better than that, that's checking. Just do it. So there was this koan that I was giving people yesterday during interviews, and it had this wonderful commentary.
It's the recognition I'm thinking of. How do you recognize?
Okay, so Charlie's question is, how do you recognize that you can do better? No, you don't recognize I can do better. You recognize I'm not doing it. Then you do it. So there was this wonderful koan so there are these, yesterday during interviews, I gave people in the building, Stan was dealing with the people online, but I was dealing with people in the building. And there are these two famous koans from the Mumonkan, where at first a monk who is named, but I forget his name, asks Zen Master Matsu, in Korean it's Majo, asks Matsu, what is Buddha? And Matsu very famously responds, mind is Buddha. So mind is Buddha. But then the next koan in the Blue Cliff record, in the Mumonkan, is that another monk, unnamed, comes to Matsu and says, what is Buddha? And Matsu says, no mind, no Buddha. So it's very interesting. Same question, two different answers. Although they don't contradict each other. People think they contradict each other, but I used to be a logician. They don't contradict each other. So in the commentary to the second one, Zen Master Sung San has this thing about a tree doesn't ask what is truth. A tree just does its tree job. A tree isn't out there, okay, is it true that the sky is really blue? Or what is the weather going to be tomorrow? Or, what are those mushrooms growing over by my roots, and are they friends? And, a tree doesn't do anything like that. It's just a tree, and it does what trees do. So that mind, that's this just do it mind. So when you realize I'm not just doing it, you just do it. That's not checking. It's just, oh, wait a minute, wake up. It's like, oh, the light just turned green. Oh, the light just turned red.
That's a wake-up moment.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But if you sit there and go, oh, I'm just a bad Zen student, look at my mind wandering all over the place, that's checking. Okay? Jane, you have a question.
This always comes up in my mind when I see that, hear that. Don't humans check? Isn't that what humans do?
Humans do a lot of stuff.
I mean, humans behave like humans, and that's one of the things they do. So, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, so humans do a lot of things that get in the way. We have a lot of sort of programming, to use a modern metaphor. I don't know what they would have used even 100 years ago, but we are kind of programmed to be self-defeating in many ways. You know, and Charlie started off talking about, oh no, yeah, you were talking about karma, right?
Karma and
Yeah,
fate.
right, karma and fate. So karma is like habit mind, is one way to look at it. It actually has several meanings. It's like you look in a dictionary, there's one meaning, two meanings, three, and they're sort of connected to each other. So one of the meanings of karma is habit mind. And we have all these mental habits that are completely self-defeating. They keep us from functioning correctly. And one way they do that is this self-absorption. So this kind of checking yourself, that's a self-absorption. You're suddenly concerned with this, you know, whatever this is, right? You know, I always think of it like, what's that? You know? So you're looking inward in the worst way. So when we do that, we're defeating anything we can actually do. It's, you know, like shooting ourselves in the foot all the time. Okay? All right. Thank you. Let's see, what time is it? One short question if there's time, if anyone has one, otherwise announcements.
I have a short question.
Okay, maybe I'll have a short answer.
Yes, my true self is so abstract to me that I can't even deal with it. So help me.
So true self, you're right. It's a very abstract phrase, and then, you know, it's a terrible phrase because it's a noun. You know, it's an adjective with a noun, so that means we think it's a thing, and it's a thing that we can describe because it's an adjective. So it's true and self. Self is a thing, and then there's this true as opposed to false self, right? So it sets up this binary, and yeah, it's terrible because language never works. So your true self has no life, no death, is not bound by time and space, and then it becomes even more abstract, which is terrible. Your true self doesn't belong to you. Okay? So this true self that we talk about, that's because you can't speak in language about it. Language doesn't work. But we have to point somehow. We've got to point. So we have this phrase, true self, and we use it to point. But yeah, don't get attached to the thing that's pointing.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. All right, time for announcements. Let's see. We have a retreat next week. There's lots of